Okay, so another session. We book a win, small win, about a half a stack, half a buy-in. Take it. I'll take it. Intention leading into the session was to play very not cautiously, but very ABC poker. Try and take in the position a little, play a little slower, take in the positions a little bit more. Be conscious of ranges, strive not to play exploits when I don't really have reads worth exploiting. um uh yeah, I think generally I did pretty well. I played a good solid game. I made lots of little, I think, good decisions. We ran a little bit luckier today than we did in other days, and we didn't get busted out on anything. We generally got it in good. There might have been just a little too much caution on river, which is a problem for me. The river play seems to be definitely a struggle, which is unfortunate considering that's where the most money goes in. But nonetheless, I'm trying to take on some of the lessons I'm learning with the CPS, and thinking about things like condensation of ranges, who has the polar advantage, what various boards give us a range advantage, and if so, what do they do in terms of polarity? When we have both, we can find both big and small bets. When we have only polarity, we're going to only have big bets and more checks. And when we have a good strong range advantage, we should be taking advantage of that by betting out most of our range. And I think for the most part, that's how I played. I can't remember, there was another intention in there that I've now forgotten, so we'll just let it go. So let's see what we got. A6 will be an open. Actually, it'll be a cold call. Certainly could be a 3-bet. Generally, I'm these mid-sized suited aces on the button against an early position open with solid stats. I will mix to a certain extent calls and raises, and this time I decided to call if they were VPIPing 30 with a PR 30. If they were, if they're kind of out of line, then I might raise this and have more 3-bets. And if they're the inverse, say a 10 VPIP, then maybe this kind of hand folds out. But the size 2 is fine for a call, also fine for a raise. Whiffy board, but I think this would be a board that favors our range a little bit. We do have a pair of sixes. Since we have no clubs, we have no real drawing equity other than an ace or another six. I don't see any advantage to raising a c-bet, even if this board is more likely going to help our range than theirs. I think we just have some good sort of medium-sized tier 4 value that doesn't need to blow people off pots, and definitely call a bet versus overcards, and reevaluate turns. So it's checked, recognized, and once it's checked to us, I've decided that range advantage that we have now allows us to bet even with a pair, a medium pair. We get lots of denial from those overcards. And those not all non-club overcards are going to call, right? So we certainly can protect this hand by putting a bet in, and I size it up a little bit because we are probably wanting to be somewhat semi-polar, not fully polar, but semi-polar. I think if we had a 6 of clubs, we could certainly go bigger, or we could check for a nice, strong, protected hand on the checkbacks. But in this case, I decided to put a bet in and see what happens? They call. So now I think again, much more advantageous to our range, expecting a check two. We get it, but that call to a B50 does condense the range quite a bit. So I'm expecting to see um, like over pairs. Uh, I would expect to see tens and nines and eights and sevens and lots of good made hands, nut flush draws. Now there's two on the board. So ace king of hearts is also really strong. And I think if we bet more now, even though the eight is advantageous, I think the flush draw turns probably is stronger advantage to them, the calling range. So I think we just want to check back and try to get to showdown. The 10, again, stronger for our range. We're the ones that have 9-7, not them. And there's lots of busted flush draws, but we have a lot of value. Like we are beating ace highs, and I think we just have a bluff catching hand, and I don't see any value in reopening action for thin value because we get called by jacks and tens and and nines and sevens and lots of things that are beating us. When we face a 2/3 bet, B75, 3/4 bet, um, we're now bluff catching with the fourth pair, and I hope that I don't call because I don't think this is a good call, which I don't. So if it was like 3 or 4, so it'd be 33, then I think we could probably use this hand as a call potentially to try and catch out ace highs that might be bluffing. But even there, that's a pretty thin bluff catcher. So I think a good fold. I would be curious to know. I'm almost absolutely positive that the wizard will also agree that this is a proper fold. Where are we here? B loss was not our best day, but not terrible either. It'd be funny if this turned out to be the like number one hand that we lost EV on. That we should have called. No, it's not. It is an ace's hand where we lost value by not being more aggressive. So that one was a6. Oops. A6. And here. No, it wanted a call. So there you go. I guess we just don't have enough calling in our range to fold there. So otherwise well played, but I don't know. That seems edgy to me, and maybe is like a slightly tight call that loses a little bit EV, but also yeah. I'm gonna just make a note. I don't think it's a terrible play. Solver wants a fold, wants a call. Okay. Jacks are 3-bet. We get a call and a fold, so a cold call from the big blind. So stats aren't fantastic, a little too tight, not really opening much pre-flop properly with raises, and good sample size. So not giving this guy a hell of a lot of credit. Get a check. We should definitely bet, I think, with this board. It's a bit disconnected, but there are lots of flush draws in the range that can call and condense them down. I can't give them credit as having any better hands other than overcard hands, and so we do have a lot of denial versus those hands as well. So with the backdoor flush draw, also this I think is a bet as part of our polar range here on the flop. We get a call to that. Four comes. It's tough to read what this would be with somebody with a VPIP of 16 cold calling a raise and re-rit 3-bet. So, just difficult to know. In a void, the 4 probably doesn't help them that much, but we certainly don't have very many raises in our 3 or 4s in our 3-bet range other than maybe ace 4. So I'm going to probably think that at points, this wants to be a check back when we get check 2. Also notice the SPR, we're very close to 1. So if we were to bet, say 3/4 pot and they shoved, there's no world where we fold, but we could also be owned. And I think we want to allow them on a river, somewhat safe river, say no ace, no king, possibly no queen. We want to allow them to bluff with their ace high hands and bluff catch with the jacks. So I check as well. 7 comes. Also not a great card for our range, I don't think. We now have a 6 4-liner with a 6. What 6s do we have that we 3-bet? Pretty well none. There's no place for a polar bet here, I don't think. We just don't have enough to rep it. And they have a ton of missed flushes. And then I think the only value we get calls from would be 10s and pair of 9s. So maybe that, but just isn't enough, especially with a check, check, check. They have somewhat, I guess, a fairly heavily condensed range because of that large flopped call into overpairs. And the only one would be 10s or 8s or a pair of 9s that we're going to get any sort of strong value from. And 6s got there, and a 6 got there, a 6 of hearts or clubs, sorry, diamonds, king 6 of diamonds, like who knows what they're calling with. So I don't know whether we missed a little thin value because the check, and if they did have a 6, they would likely lead it probably for a good portion of the pot. They're not going to want to miss out on that. So they're probably still very heavily condensed, and we are likely the best hand. So is this a river shove? Maybe that's the mistake. Maybe that is a mistake. And as I said at the beginning, my river play is weak. I want to check it and see what we think, Mr. Machine. I'm now sort of thinking that probably this wanted to get bet out. We're not even going to get there. It's probably because of the cold call. Yeah, the cold call just is not in the sims. So I'm going to give myself a little note. Probably missed a bet on river. Maybe small and call and fold, but no, because the SPR is so narrow. I don't think there's any bet that we make that we aren't calling if it's raised. There's no. So is it really you just do we shove to get calls from from pocket pairs basically? Assume no full call with queen plus. I doubt their checking range after check check is going to be well protected with strong value. It's sitting all in their betting range. Yeah, maybe that was a mistake. I'll bet you anything they show tens here. Yep. All right. So we probably missed a bet there. But that is very specific. I don't know. I just don't know if there's enough else. Like jacks for sure want to bet there with tens. Kings, aces, queens, maybe they will bet for sure because they're just. But if they just, there's no kings or queens in their range, so why would aces be any better to bet than jacks? Um, we got to have some bluff shoves as well. They would be like, do we with SPR of one on a four liner? That's a hand to think about a little bit longer, I think. Maybe these are the kind of spots, river, missed value river, that is for sure contributing to my leaks and my inability to like build that reservoir of extra money that protects us when we're coolered or when we do some sort of bad punty blunder. So I wonder if here we haven't found ourselves in that spot, especially thinking it out and thinking how condensed their range must be now with a cold call three bet and versus a three bet and a fairly large flop bet. Having said that, not a strong player making that pre-flop play. So, and also somewhat short stacked. So I don't know. I just don't know. That's a very interesting hand. My guess, I don't know. It's such an interesting hand. That might be one to post. King 10, I'm going to go for a 3-bet raise here. I don't have any stats on this guy, but I'm trying to 3-bet more and thinking I might be able to get some folds from small pocket pairs, medium pocket pairs, and possibly medium pocket pairs, and also better aces. And I don't. I don't. I guess, yeah, I guess I figure like how many aces are likely to fold to a large raise. Oh, maybe a lot. So I think I should start putting these kings. Definitely a king queen off. I will use to raise in the spot. King jack, maybe I'll use to raise in the spot because they block those. But I think king 10 suited could also be usable. It's not a great hand to see post flop unless we really smash it. We didn't. So middle pair. Having said that, much better range advantage to us. Could potentially look at leading here, I think, or check raising. Not having any spade backdoors, or if king 10 hearts probably would be even better check raise. Blocking a set of tens is helpful, but also we have quite a bit of value against ace king and ace queen. Yeah, so it checks. We're gonna call once and see what happens. Kind of an innocuous turn. If we get a big bet on the turn here, I think we are probably laying it down and trusting that they have either a very strong draw that we're just never going to catch up against unless we hit another 10, like a 10 diamond or a 10, well, yeah, 10 club or 10 diamond, obviously, or king club or diamond. And they check it. And now we have a decision. Do we want to put a small bet out to get a call from nines, eights, or ace king, or busted flush high ace king, maybe as a bluff catcher? Or do we just want to try and see some showdown value? I think I probably like just showdown value. And now we face a bet, which is quite strong, 66% or so. I think we should probably call this. And I'll bet you I folded. Oh no, I called. Okay, good. Versus queens. I think that's a reasonable call. There's lots of flush draws that could potentially bluff a river. I don't think that's bad at all. Let's see. 10. This one. Yeah, no, it doesn't like the call. Well, it's actually not loving something down here. We don't. We check. They check, and then somehow it chokes out here. Oh, because we should fold. Okay. That's what it doesn't like. On this flop, don't bother calling with no redraw and just a bare 10. Very interesting. Very interesting. I would have thought we would defend a second pair. I would have thought that would be defense, but I guess because that bet is so big, that's why we're folding it out. All right. Good. So that was where the mistake is in that hand. Flop bet is so large that we don't need to defend with 10x and no redraw. Lots of other better combos that have better QR. Okay, cool. I would not have thought that, but now it makes complete sense because of that sizing. 6-7 will open. You get a call. We get 3-way. We flop a straight. So now the question is, how do we get our stack into the middle, especially against 2 people? So at this point, usually these sort of really dry boards, I'm going to have a lot of checks. I could maybe get fancy and put the nuts into checks with a redraw into my checking range as well and strive to potentially see some bluffing from this guy, or even like value betting. They think value betting, or this guy with a 36-29. It's pretty wide range, so probably hitting this quite well. Even 2 pairs are going to go for it, but in this case, I decided to bet. Now that size I think is weak. Weak. That was bad. I should, since I'm hardly ever betting here, that should have been much more polar. Should have been almost close to the pot. Terrible size. On flop. Low frequency, high in a spot. Question, since we generally won't have much advantage on this, should we, oh, okay, I also know why I bet that small. Should we have a large size? Especially into 3, 2. Used a B33 as per Rocket Sims, which never choose big sizes, especially on wet boards. What do we call these boards? Tsunami boards. Boards like these. So that's fine. But heads up, go polar. Or check and protect that range. So we get a call, and then we get now we got a lovely draw. So we have nuts and as well as a redraw. And now we're just going to pot it. We actually over pot it. I'm trying to bring in a few more of these over bets on the turn. And so if we had gotten a call, which we don't, that would be almost 28, 38, almost 40 big blinds in there. And we're still at SPR 2. So like a flush river, we could small bet any non kind of coordinated, like a king or an ace or something. We could maybe again overbet possibly to get a call, but in this case they fold. 2-9 we end up seeing just because it's loser checks to us, and we're just gonna check it down so it's not a hand. Ace king will re-raise Kind of size up a little bit more in the small blind. We get a call. We're out of position. We get a king board. I'm going to lead out for 1/3 pot. Get a call, which is great. Somewhat innocuous. 8. I mean, not fabulous for our range, but I don't think it changes very much. 5, 6. Like the draws are still drawing, and worst kings are still worst kinging. Sets are still slow rolling us. The 8 really does not change much, even though we don't have a ton of 8s in our range, and they'll have a few more. So, like, what 8s do they have? Ace 8. I mean, that doesn't help them in this case with this particular hand, nor with most of the great kings that we have. The aces or set of kings, etc. So again, that 8, I don't think is benefiting them anymore, and I think we continue to have a nut advantage. Other than the fact that, well, actually, I would squeeze with 4s from a small blind. 3s unlikely. 4s, yes. Squeeze with 8s as well. So I think we, in concentration, actually have still a pretty good nut advantage. So we do 3/4 it. Didn't think there's much reason to overbet it. I certainly could have. We got to fold. Open with ace queen. City board. Gonna just check behind. More shitty board. They bet and we fold. 6 open. 6 is open. We got kind of a raggedy thing that we're out of position. So on this kind of stuff, I will generally just check and call if something's bet. Nothing is. We now. They're gonna have more sick. They're gonna have more jacks. And we will just be in a world of hurt if we bet and get raised. Not really a world of hurt. That's not really that fair, but I don't know. What are we doing? Are we bluffing? We're showdown value, so just showdown. Oh. Hello. Hi.